Okay.
So we got to sort of, because we need to be done by 9:30 for sure, because it sucks. This Wednesday, right? 3 joules? Yeah. Okay, ACI 16, class 9, part B. All right. So we talked about motivating karma and motivated karma, right? Mm-hmm. So now I'm gonna put out here the 10 non-virtues. So these are the ways in which we plant our karma, right? In these ways. It's not very clear well in the thing, but
no, they can't see it.
They can't see it. Oh well. Yeah. So there's the 3 ways that we can actually plant karma, right? Is through body, through speech, and through mind. Is this just not bright enough for everybody? Is it that? Was I a bad choice of color?
I could see it. It's a little light.
Okay. But what?
It's just a little light, the color.
Yeah.
But I could see it fine.
Okay. So down here you'll see the motivating aspect of our karma is down here, right? And that is coveting, ill will, or wrong view. It's of the mind, right? Or its opposite. So coveting is desiring something, especially that someone else has. And willing to do harm to get it, right? And ill will is wishing that others would suffer, right? Or even being unhappy, or being happy when people fail, being happy when people are sick or feeling bad, right? And wrong view is the basic idea of not understanding this, of thinking that the pen is the pen from its own side, okay? Or its opposite, right? Coveting, opposite of coveting would be being happy for other people, the stuff that people have, that other people have attained, and not really wanting them for yourself. Opposite of ill will would be compassion, right? And then the opposite of wrong view would be totally understanding where things were coming from. So these kinds of things are going to motivate us to do all these things, right? So, and we can use our body to plant karma, non-virtue. These are the 10 non-virtues, okay? The 10 non-virtues. The top 10. We made the top 10 list of all the bad stuff that we do. Killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. Those are all things that we can do with our body. And stealing, they say that anything over 10 cents, anything that's worth over 10 cents is called stealing. I personally, I don't even go that far. I mean, you know if it's yours or not. You just leave it alone. Right? And killing is all kinds of, harming life. And sexual misconduct, that, keeping your sexual mind pure. Right? Even in your mind, they say, don't desire another's partner. Do whatever you can to stop yourself from doing that. If this is what's so great about the teaching of the pen, is because if you find yourself, if you have a seed in your mind that is a sexual misconduct seed, right, and then you think it's okay to be like, dropping little compliments to your neighbor's wife, at the barbecue, right, and you're getting some kind of little buzz from that or something, right? You can understand that this person in front of you doesn't have any power to make you happy, right? It's this mistaken idea, right? Yeah, if I could just have her, if I could just be with her, if she'd be my girlfriend, I'd be happy. And then so the mind goes crazy, and we do dumb things because we don't understand that even though it may look like this person could give us happiness, the very act of kind of betraying your friend or betraying your neighbor, or that's a negative karma. It's a non-virtue. So how is it possible? This is good. You have to convince yourself of these things. How is it possible that actually trying to get someone to cheat on their partner could possibly bring me good? And if it does bring you good for a second, it's from before. It's from something else he did before. So so you have to get your mind around that. And how we can be non-virtuous in our speech, lying. That basically means presenting something to someone that you know is not true. Right? Saying something to someone or giving someone an idea about yourself or anything that you know is not true. Divisive speech. Talking behind people's back. Talking in ways that separate people from each other, that make people judge each other. Harsh words, profanity. I don't know, even yelling and unpleasant sounds that you can make. If you're a drummer, you're pretty much screwed in that regard. Which I am a drummer. Trying to find all kinds of ways to be quiet in an apartment is not really much fun. So, meaningless talk, right? Wasting all your time, and other people's time with idle talk. How many times have you been on the way to go somewhere and someone stops you, and next thing you know, right? Well, don't do that to anybody else. If you don't like it, don't do it to somebody else, And then, if you absolutely stop doing that, this is the way it works. If you want to drain this from your life, then don't put it in. Just stop it right there, and then whatever was in there before must drain out. And then finally, no one can waste your time with idle talk because you don't have the seed for it. If you're getting it right? If someone's talking your ear off and you got to go somewhere and it's you're making all these hints and they're not getting it, that's your fault. You planted that seed, right? Yeah. So those are the 10 non-virtues. And here's a couple of things called shame and consideration, right? So they say we should have shame and consideration. Well, so shame in Western terms isn't such a popular word, right? Mm-hmm. But shame in Buddhism is a virtue. They say if someone blushes, it's virtuous because they have a conscience. Right? So the difference between shame and consideration. If you have shame, then you don't want to do any of these kinds of acts because you don't want to feel ashamed of your own self, even if no one's looking. Right? It's you're supposed to have enough shame so that you don't take something from someone's purse, even if no one catches you, right? Even if you know you can't get caught, you're supposed to develop some kind of shame that you should be motivated by. I don't want to feel that way about myself. I don't want to remember that I did that. I don't want to feel like I did that. So you don't do it. That's shame. Consideration is the difference between shame and consideration is pointed towards others. So you don't do certain things because you don't want other people to think bad about you, right? So, and that, especially if you're trying to uphold some kind of morality, you want to teach Buddhism, and then you're teaching Buddhism, and then your student finds you, I don't know, half drunk in the bar with your head in the toilet. Right? You don't want that, right? That's consideration for your student. So if you have ideas of doing that, consider your student that might walk in and see their teacher. Wait a second. Something's not adding up here. Right? That's consideration. Yeah. So, how does this all happen exactly? How does this karma actually? Actually, that's not yet. Let's not do that yet. Yeah. Okay. This will take a little bit of time. I'm just going to rattle through these, and I would say give up all hope of getting it down because it's it's long. You can maybe get a few points down, and that will ripened result, corresponding result, and environmental result. But you'll get the idea. So of the three kinds of karma that we can plant, and you got your virtue, your non-virtue. And your neutral karma, you've got your body, speech, and mind. You've got all those elements in play. You can have three types of experiences of those, and specifically in three different times. Okay? So there are three different times that can happen from bad deeds. No one here can tell me.
Definitely.
Actually, maybe you could right now. I'm sorry. If you want to get this down, it's what's happening next, which is going to be really hard to write down. Oh, someone can tell me.
I just don't remember what the question was.
You just saying took my roof or no?
Yeah.
Oh. The three different times that karma, you can experience karma. The three different times.
Right, okay.
Right? You can't tell me.
I can.
You can, show.
This life.
Yeah.
The next life, or some future life.
And so, yeah. So you can plant karma in this life, and you have three possibilities. You can experience that karma come back in this very life. You can experience it come back in next life, or any life after that. So those are three ways to point out that it's pretty much open season for karma. Right? Okay. So now we're going to go through this list of. We're going to go through three bad deeds. Okay, one of body, one of speech, and one of mind. And we're going to talk about a ripened result, a corresponding result, and an environmental result that can all possibly happen from this one karma. Okay? So let's just say, let's take body, and let's take killing, for example. So if you did the karma of killing, the ripened result of that killing will be after you die. You have a birth in one of the three lower realms, right? Which is you get born as an animal, a craving spirit, or as a hell being. Okay. The corresponding result is even if you are eventually born as a human, or born as a human, then similar harm comes to you in your life that you experience after that, after the life that you did the killing, right? So if you have been killing in your previous life, then in the following life you live a short life and you're continually unhealthy, right? And you can't get the things you need to support yourself, right? Because you were killing in the last life. And the other result is an environmental result. So that's how you're feeling in the life. Now this is like where you are, your location. So if you were killing, then if you're born as a human, finally you live in a place where it is a dangerous place. It's an unhealthy place. They didn't mention it here, but there's also corresponding habit, which means you have the tendency to kill, right? Have you noticed how, maybe when you were younger, or even you see it now, some kids, they step on ants, right? And some kids don't. Some kids run around and collect spiders and then do nasty things to them. Right? And some kids, they just would never do that. They would never do that. And that's a seed in your mind. It's not like all kids are like kill ants. Some kids never kill ants. But if you have the seed of killing from your last life, it's just natural. You just like stomping on ants and it's all good, right? Or you're kicking over anthills and having fun. Right? That's part of your makeup. Well, why don't we go through them all? Actually, it'd be fun. So if you did any of them, right, killing, stealing, or sexual misconduct, they say in a harsh way, in a heavy way, then you'll end up in a birth in one of the 3 lower realms. Okay. So let's just say for stealing, for instance, you can never have our own things. Anything that you have, you don't have personal ownership over. You know? You're always borrowing the car. It's never like your car ever. Right? You never feel like you have sole ownership of anything. You always got to make sure nobody else is using it first, right? And for sexual misconduct, in this life, there's always people trying to get your partner. You're always having competition for your partner.
What if someone always has to use your car?
Someone says use it. Well, I guess, I don't know. Maybe, you know what? It's going to have to depend on how you feel about that.
That's why you gave it a look. You're the borrower. Okay?
Yeah. Like if it's a thing where you're thinking, not again. Not today. then you've got like a seed of, selfishness or something, and it's unpleasant. But if you're like, awesome, you wanted the car, great, then it's a positive thing, right? Not only is it a positive thing, but then you're planting seeds to like get rides everywhere at any time you ever want to. Right? Yeah. Yeah, that's like if you buy a car and it just keeps on going with no problems, and you've given lots of rides to people, right? You've making sure people have gone places. If you buy a car, like stupid Chevys, never buy a Chevy; they're always breaking down. It's because you haven't gotten people where they need to go whenever you have the chance. So you cannot buy a Chevy that works. You're going to have problems with them. You have this, then you sell it to someone because you're frustrated, and it never ever breaks again for that person, right? Because they gave rides. Environmental result. For stealing, you live in a place where crops do not ripen properly and where there's famine and drought. Yeah. So probably the food isn't very nutritious, right? Maybe the aisles are full of Fritos, chips. Right? Like, I don't know if you've noticed, but sometimes you go to places where it's like much, much easier and cheaper to eat really unhealthy. You can get a lot of stuff, right? But if you want to get some nice produce and take it home, it's like, for $30. You take that $30 and buy craft dinner to last you for a year. I mean, so, what's going on, right? For sexual misconduct, you live in a place which is filthy and smells bad. Yeah, the place smells bad. This is there's this joke. A lot of Buddhists, when they know this stuff, they smell anything, they go, "Oh, it smells like sexual misconduct in here." It's like this running joke. Okay. In speech, right? In speech. Same idea. If you do any one of the following 4, right? Any of those 4 of speech, you end up in a birth in one of the 3 lower realms. If you do it in a heavy kind of a way. We'll talk more about, I think in the next class, what you have to have in place for it to be an actual pure karma that will actually function as a karma for you. So, let's go to result. Let's see what's first here. We've got, the list is Let's listen in the same order. Okay, so. Make sure I'm not giving you the wrong information. This will work. I just so you can see that how well this corresponds. I had this memorized at one time. So, all right. So if you are have been lying, then a similar harm comes to you, in that people discredit what you say. Yeah, and even if you're telling the truth, they don't believe you. Right? Ever been there? Even if you're telling the truth, right? They do not believe you. If you're divisive speaking, you tend to lose your friends, right? You just lose your friends. And harsh words, you hear many unpleasant things around you. Many unpleasant things around you. And again, you're always, the kind of bottom line here is you're always doing the same thing. You have like a tendency to lie, or you have a tendency to have divisive thought, harsh words, meaningless talk. Right? They say that divisive speech is, meaningless talk is really a cause for low self-esteem. They say. Can lead you to have low self-esteem. Okay, so environmental result. If you have been lying in your previous life, if you are born as a human, you live in a place where your work never has any great result, no matter what you do, right? You can't get any great result from it. And there are many dangerous and deceptive people around you. For divisive speech, you live in a place where the environment is inhospitable and dangerous. For harsh words, you live in a place which is covered with thorny bushes. Sharp rocks, right? Generally rough, without sufficient water, and it's frightening. Sounds like down the mountain. Right? The desert. Right? Walking around in the desert with your bare feet, I guess. For harsh words, if you live in a place... That was for harsh words, I'm sorry. For meaningless talk, you live in a place where none of the trees or plants give fruit which are ripe, or which ripen at the right time. And there are few parks or places to relax. And many frightening things around. So, don't be idle speaking. So you want to end up in one of these places. Alright, so finally we're going to get into mind. Same thing, you're going to go to a ripened result. You're going to go to a birth in the 3 lower realms. If you do it complete karma, with some motivation behind you. The corresponding result, if you do indeed get born as a human, for coveting, you are overcome with feelings of desire, dislike, or ignorance. So basically you're ruled by ignorant desire, right? So right, no, it's just desire. So if you were born in that as a human and your last life was a lot of coveting, you had the seeds of coveting, then you're constantly overcome with ignorant desire. You never have enough, right? And you're always trying to get it. Nothing's ever good enough for you, right? And then, if the opposite, you've been wishing harm on others, then on this life, you're always having feelings of dislike. You don't like anything. You can never be satisfied in the sense that, not that you crave things, but that you just don't like anything. Right? Nothing pleases you. Right? You just don't like things. You're a very fussy eater. You can't just eat anything that's in front of you. It's like, environmental result. Even if you are born as a human, if you've been craving or coveting a last life, you live in a place that day by day or month by month things just keep getting worse. Yeah, that's got some ramifications. For ill will, you live in a place where there is much illness and infectious diseases, dangers. And for wrong view, you live in a place where the holy Dharma has degenerated and has been lost altogether. So there's no spiritual teaching around. There's no people that, and they say it's like you live in a place where people hold filthy, immoral things to be good, and there's no one doing any virtue. So that's your lot. If you run around embarking on all these things. Now, if you have some interest in living a life that is like the opposite of all those things, then just simply do the opposite. Right? It's just real simple. Take care of people. Give. Sexual purity. Tell the truth. Speak in ways that bring people together. Speak gently. Don't waste people's time. Say meaningful things. Figure out your coveting. Right? Give people things. Don't be happy when people get things. And have some compassion and develop your wisdom. It's simple. And then you can avoid this kind of trouble and have a nice life, right? And even if you never believe anything about Buddhism, if you just live your life the opposite of those 10 non-virtues, you're just going to be a much nicer person to be around. Your life's just going to get much better, irregardless. All right. So we have to ram this thing home now. Okay. So all the karma that it takes to produce your world, that's constantly producing your world and the people in it, how you perceive them. Like, where is that karma? Right? Where is this karma? Where does it travel? How is it stored? Where is it stored, right? Some storage unit. First month is free. First month is free. This, we get into an idea by the mind-only school. Now, this idea is accepted by all the schools in a certain way. It's not fully accepted by Majjhimika Prasangika, but it is accepted to a certain degree. And that is that there's a thing called a kunshi. And a kunshi is, they call it your storehouse consciousness. Okay? You can maybe picture it like a big balloon type thing that's somehow part of your consciousness. And in that balloon type of thing, aura type of thing, holds all your seeds that are called bakchuks. They call them bakchuks, which are potential, right? They're the stuff that you've seen yourself do, right? The stuff that your mind has witnessed yourself doing gets stored in this thing they call a kunshi, or storehouse consciousness. So, what they say in mind-only school, it's interesting, that when a karma goes off, let's just use the example of, let's say you get up in the morning and you're rushing around and you're late for work, and you get to work and it was a particularly intense situation and the boss yells at you because you're late. Maybe you've been late. You ever notice that you're always late 3 times in a row? Has that ever happened to you? It's happened to me. 3 times. This always seems like 3 times. But anyway, so maybe it's the 3rd time. And your boss yells at you because you show up late. So what they say is going on here, according to the mind only, is you have it's one seed that pops, which gives you the whole experience. So mind only is saying that you have an eye consciousness and you have an eye faculty. Okay? So your eye faculty is like the rods and cones of your eyeball. Alright? Which allows your eye consciousness to function and pick up data, kind of thing, and then send this thing to the brain and say what you're looking at. And what's happening is you have this person in front of you that's making noise. Okay? And maybe it's like a round face with this round oval, and it's like, right? Which is the basis for what your, this is the basis of your projection, say, right? And they're saying that the seed ripens, and it ripens into you experiencing it and also the experience at the same time. Almost like one seed pops and branches into the basis that you're looking at and you looking at it. Okay? So the whole thing is coming from one seed you planted. The guy yelling and you seeing the guy yelling. So what mind only is saying is you're not really looking at a person yelling. What you're really looking at is the foundation consciousness appearing to you as the physical faculty of the eye, of sight. And by extension of that, the outer forms that the eye thinks it's seeing. That's their version of what a projection is, right? And these seeds travel over time and grow, right? So they maybe you planted one 14 lifetimes ago. It sat there and germinated, grew, like maybe maybe 14 lifetimes ago, somebody was trying to steal your grain of corn, and you hit him over the head, and then 14 lifetimes later, it blows up and it becomes this big thing at work, and everybody's looking at you, and you're the schmuck, and the boss is yelling at you, and it's a whole thing all at once, right? You're late for work, you feel bad about that already, the boss is yelling at you, and it's a whole thing all at once, because it grew, right, over time. Because the mental seeds of what you do or say or act gets planted in this thing, travels over time, and as soon as the causes and conditions are correct, then the thing has an opportunity to go, and then it comes, and you can't stop it. And the mind only says they replicate themselves from moment to moment to moment to moment and grow. They don't say they stay there. They say they actually reproduce themselves and grow. So Majjhimika Prasangika, they agree with that, except they cannot buy the idea that there's some separate balloon-like kunshi. They're saying that you are the kunshi, right? Your whole experience, like your whole mind, carries your seeds, right? It's not separate from you. It is what you actually are. Okay, so that's really not part of this class, but that's what they say. So that's the mind-only school, but the mind-only school is a confusing term. This mind-only does not mean that the world is your mind only. Okay? That's a mistake. Mind only, because if you think that mind is just your mind only, then That's just be crazy. But mind only, you can kind of, if you're hedging around studying this stuff, then you can start to think that it's all your mind, right? It's all your mind. And, your mind is definitely projecting it all, but you're not walking around inside a world that is made of mind, right? So mind only, why they call, let's put it in two ways. In the negative sense, so a negative reason why, of the meaning of mind only, is that in order to deny that your reality could be created by anything else, such as some creator being. So in other words, mind is the main thing, like we talked about before. Like it's because your mind is the motivating action behind all your actions of body and speech. That mind is the main thing. And your mind is what is involved behind all your karmas, and so whatever karmas have ripened have started first in your mind. And it's meant to negate the idea such as some unchanging creator being that has made your whole reality, right? Somehow has brought you into being and controls all your movements. That is meant to negate that. So I just gave you both of them. I gave you the negative and the positive. So the negative sense was just to disprove that there is a creator being that's actually creating things. And in the positive sense is that not that it's mind only, but things are come from mainly mind, and that the mind is motivated by your karma. Okay? Due to the role of creation in ripening your karma. And that's it. That's class. Any questions? Right.
I'm gonna just.
Yeah, we're going to stop this because we have 3 Duels Vancouver is like they're teaching in 10 minutes.